My name is Jennifer. I'm 24 years old, and 3 years ago my parents erased me like I was a typo in their perfect little story. One day I was their daughter. The next, I was a blocked number. My photos disappeared from the walls. My name became something they avoided saying out loud, like it might stain the air. There wasn't a fight that made sense. No explosion. No dramatic goodbye. Just silence. Cold. Calculated. Endless. Weeks passed. Then months. Then years. And there's something uniquely painful about being alive while the people who raised you pretend you never existed. At first, I called. I texted. I waited. Then pride stepped in like a fragile bodyguard and told me to stop begging where I wasn't wanted. So I did, but that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. Every morning in my tiny studio apartment, I woke up with that heaviness in my chest, that question looping in my mind: how does a family delete their own child and sleep peacefully after? They weren't struggling. They weren't poor. They didn't lose me in chaos. They chose my brother, chose comfort, chose whatever version of the story made them look right. And in that choice, I became inconvenient. So I built myself in silence. When the fridge was nearly empty, when rent felt like a mountain, when I worked double shifts and still couldn't afford rest, no one was coming to save me. That realization is brutal, but it's also clarifying. I learned discipline because I had to. I learned hunger not just for food, but for stability, for power, for a life no one could take from me again. I poured myself into work, into risks, into nights where 4 hours of sleep felt like a luxury. And slowly, painfully, the ground under me stopped shaking. Opportunities opened. Investments paid off. My bank account grew. My confidence grew faster. And one day, freedom had a shape. White, sleek, resting against blue water. A yacht. Mine. Not rented for a weekend. Not borrowed for a photo. Earned. Every inch of it built on nights I cried alone and mornings I showed up anyway. The first time I stepped onto that deck, I didn't feel flashy. I didn't feel arrogant. I felt safe. Because space, real, physical space, finally belonged to me. No one could kick me out of it. No one could tell me I didn't deserve it. Or at least, that's what I believed. It was a quiet afternoon near the marina when the past decided it wasn't done with me. I heard raised voices on the dock, the scrape of luggage wheels, and when I looked up, my breath caught in my throat. My parents, standing there, with suitcases, like they were arriving for a vacation. Like 3 years of pretending I didn't exist had been a minor scheduling issue. My mother scanned the yacht with approval. My father walked forward like he owned the horizon. My brother trailed behind them, hands in his pockets, eyes everywhere except on me. Shock does strange things to your body. Mine went still, frozen, because nothing prepares you for the people who erased you to suddenly reappear on your private yacht with luggage. Before I could even ask what they were doing there, my father spoke, sharp, commanding. He told me to move to the crew quarters because my brother needed the master suite. On my boat, like I was staff, like my success had automatically become family property. And something inside me snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, just clean, final. 3 years of silence rushed back all at once. Birthdays alone, holidays scrolling through old photos, the humiliation of wondering what I did wrong. And now here they were, not apologizing, not explaining, rearranging my life to suit him. That's when I understood. They hadn't come because they missed me. They came because they found me. Because success makes you visible to people who only value what they can extract. When I told them no calmly, clearly, that this was my yacht and nobody was moving anywhere, my father laughed. Not amused, disbelieving, as if the idea of me saying no to him was absurd. The laugh turned sharp quickly. Words about loyalty, about everything I owed them, about how without them I wouldn't even exist. And then the real reason surfaced. He demanded cash, instantly. Said if I could afford this, I could afford to help my family. Not later. Not thoughtfully. Right now. Transfer it. As if my bank account was a shared inheritance he'd been waiting to access. Hearing that demand felt surreal. The same men who ignored my calls when I was struggling now stood on my deck asking for money like it was overdue rent. When I refused again, the temperature shifted. My mother cried about how ungrateful I was. My brother finally spoke, accusing me of being selfish. Selfish. That word almost made me laugh. Selfish for protecting what I built alone. Selfish for not rewarding abandonment? I told them the truth. They didn't get to erase me for 3 years and then show up demanding access to my life because it looked comfortable from the outside. My father's face hardened. He said I'd regret this. That family was everything. That I was throwing it away. And for a second, the little girl inside me flinched. The part that still wanted their approval. But that feeling passed. Because family doesn't delete you until you're profitable again. I told them to leave. Immediately. When they refused, when my father crossed his arms and tested me, I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I called Marina security. The waiting was loud. Accusations. Shouting. My mother saying I was humiliating them. My brother muttering about fairness. My father demanding cash one last time, like repetition might unlock obedience. And when security arrived and asked them to step off, the disbelief on their faces was almost surreal. Luggage rolled back down the dock the same way it came. My father turned once and said this wasn't over, that I'd come crawling back. But when they were gone, when the dock returned to silence and the only sound was water brushing against the hull, I didn't feel guilt. I felt relief. A deep breath I hadn't taken in years. Because for the first time, I chose myself without apology. I protected my space, my peace, my work. And standing there alone as the sun dipped into gold, I realized something powerful. Success doesn't heal abandonment unless you defend it. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival. Being erased taught me how to stand on my own. And that girl they deleted? She grew into a woman who owns her space, her money, and her worth. And no one gets access to that, not even family, unless they know how to treat her like she exists.